Welcome back to the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. This week on the podcast, I interview Captain Craig Coyle. Craig is a former graduate of the U.S. Military Academy and served in the United States Army as an Apache helicopter pilot, active duty in the military for several years. He then went into the manufacturing business. He had studied to be an engineer, and now what he saw was just like in most businesses, the world's starving for good leaders. And so Craig coaches manufacturing teams and leadership development. And we have a great conversation around translating some of what he learned about leadership and operational excellence in the military and translating that into how he serves teams in that way. And we just have a really good conversation about how to make your business and your culture better by developing better leaders. My book, Master Your First Job, is the remarkable path from first day to first promotion. This is the book that every young employee needs and every employer wishes that they had. If you'd like a free copy of the book, you can go to masteryourfirstjob.com/free, and I'll send you a free e-copy of this book. That's masteryourfirstjob.com/free to get a free e-copy. My best-selling book, Master Your First Job. Let's dive into my conversation with Craig Coyle. Craig, thank you so much for being on the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. Craig, you are a former captain of the U.S. Army. You've gotten to do some cool stuff like fly Apache helicopters and all the not fun stuff that comes with being in the military as well, and all the hard work you had to go through. For me on the sidelines, I'm always like, military, cool. Thank you for your, we were talking pre-show, just I loved planes and helicopters as a kid, as most kids do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But you did the hard work of it, and you've come out of it, and I think you do amazing work now with you and your coaching business. It's been great to get to know you. I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself and your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on the show, Jake. You're doing great work and serving an awesome audience. And it's I don't know, for me, it's like coming on a platform like yours with the folks that you are committed to helping and serving is really full circle for me when I think about like my journey and my story. Because to be totally honest, like if I had your book when I was 17, my life would have looked probably totally different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I was a very committed nerd, I guess, if you want to call it that. Like I knew I always wanted to be a pilot. So
yeah,
I kind of saw the military as the avenue to be able to do that. And growing up in New York, I wasn't far from West Point. So at a young age, I kind of became, in a way, like obsessed with that being my path into adulthood. And I was fortunate to have some things come into place, got to go to West Point. That's where I became aware of the fact that I could actually study how to build and design things that fly. And so instead of becoming a history major, I pursued that path and absolutely loved it. And that led me ultimately into flight school, which then led me into the cockpit of an Apache. And the next thing I know, I'm 23 years old. I've got wings on my chest. I'm in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I'm responsible for over 20 people that are pilots and maintainers. I'm like, I think, other than 2 people, the youngest in the entire group. And I'm trying to figure out how to get these people to want to listen to me and do what I say after they just came back from a rotation to Korea and all this other stuff. And I kind of quickly realized the way I had approached life up until that point of working really hard, always trying to be the best at what I was doing, just wasn't necessarily, it was important, right? It was a good foundation, but it wasn't going to be the thing that worked anymore. And so I went through, I'll say probably 2 to 3 years of tripping over myself as a leader, if you will, right?
We've all done it.
Yeah, like having to really kind of learn how to follow, I guess, would be one of the best principles to take away. But I came out of it after some maybe questionable decisions with a few mentors that really took me under the wing. And when they opened up this door of true leadership development, and I'm not talking about like leader development in the big corporate world where they teach you how to fill out the forms that are required as a manager or fill out schedules, all that kind of stuff. No, I'm talking about like true leadership of how to interpret different personalities and how to motivate and inspire people and how to communicate in a way that it's received and how to have crucial conversations. Like, it changed my approach, not just my approach to my profession, it changed my approach to life, like holistically. And so I kind of went down this path. I was kind of already checked the pilot box, and I started to think like, man, I want to spend my life doing this because this has changed my life.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to test a lot of the theory out when I promoted through the military, and ultimately was able to do pretty well in the military, and kind of saw my path in life, veering away from what the military career looked like, and ultimately decided to leave. I said, surely the aerospace industry is going to be different, right? That's going to be fun, and there's going to be great leaders there, and there's going to be minimal challenges similar to the military. Well, I was completely wrong, obviously, right? We live in a broken world, and there are broken leaders everywhere we look. And ultimately that's the root cause of a lot of the challenges we're seeing, specifically in the industrial world where I do. So, ultimately led me to the conversation we're having today, started my own company and taking it from there.
Surprise, it's not just industrial leaders.
Yeah.
The world is starving for good leaders, and I know you feel the same way. Like I truly believe not just companies will be better, but I'm really passionate about like you can make an impact on someone's life and make a good profit by just having good leadership. And I'm really passionate about making an impact on people's lives because my story is similar to yours. And I bet if you ask every successful person ever, like, hey, talk to me about how you got here, they're going to talk about mentors they had. And like, if it wasn't for this leader that invested in me, I would not have gotten to where I am. I mean, in the acknowledgments for my book, I don't know how many names I had. I think it was 30 names of just like, hey, this book wouldn't have happened unless like these 30 people along my journey like taught me something that's in this book. And I'm like, I just wanted to thank them, and I sent them all a book because I'm like, I wouldn't be here without those people. And so I think that's really cool that in every industry, it sounds like you and I have the same mindset of, hey, we can make people's lives better, make the world a better place by giving leaders the tools and resources they need to be better leaders and to lead people better. And they're going to be better for it. The people they lead are going to be better for it. And I really do believe the world's a better place when we have good leaders in place.
Yeah.
Obviously at a massive scale, countries are better and the world's better, but also on a smaller scale as well. And if you can impact one person, I think that's really big.
Yeah.
Before we dive in further, I read a book called Master Your First Job. I'd love to know, Craig, what was your first job?
First job. Yeah. So it's interesting. If you look at my life, almost every role I've had has been associated with serving in some way. So believe it or not, my real first job, I kind of have two first jobs. My fake first job, I was grounds crew at our Little League.
Okay.
It was so fun.
That is fun.
You get to chalk up the lines and everything. But my real first job, when I was like officially like you're allowed to be on a W-2 age, was as a lifeguard. So I was a lifeguard at a pool over the summers, and I pretty much did that. That was my summer job until I joined the military right out of high school.
Lifeguard. That's something it sounded fun of like, hey, like 95% of the time you get to like sit in the sun, blow a whistle and call for Adult Swim. Never did it, but happy for the people that did do it. Okay. So there's a few things we could dive in here. Let's talk about culture and workforce engagement, because I think like this, with both your experience, what you talk about is really important. And something you said is that workforce engagement isn't just a perk, it's a strategy. Yeah. What are some of the biggest mistakes you think leaders make when trying to shape a culture?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest challenge is like culture is kind of fuzzy, right? Like everybody's got a different definition for culture.
Yes.
It's kind of like it's hard to touch, right? And so I think with that, and I firmly believe this, and I imagine you would too, I don't believe that senior leaders, right, can directly influence culture. I believe they indirectly influence culture, right? So it's the environment, it's the framework, it's the things that they create, that they scale throughout all their organizations that determines what type of culture manifests, right? Because culture is ultimately, if you're familiar with the concept of lead and lag, it's a lag measure, right? It's the fruit of whatever you are investing and creating and sowing into the environment that you've built. So I think one of the biggest challenges I see when it comes to culture and engagement is a lot of times leaders think it's about what they do. but actually it's more important that they focus on what the folks that are scaled across the organization do. So as a senior leader, right, if you want to create a good culture, it's more important that you focus on the relationships that you're helping your frontline leaders and supervisors build with their workers than your relationships with the frontline workers, because they're the ones that interact with 80 to 90% of your company every single day, right? And that's ultimately what's culture. It's the relationships. It's the manifestation of the conversations and the work and the projects and all this stuff that's happening on a daily basis. And so I think, and I'm curious your perspective on that, Jacob, too, because it's a firm belief in kind of how I run my company. It's teaching a lot of these senior leaders, it's not about what you do. It's about what you help these people do, because that's ultimately the byproduct that you create.
Yeah, I love the way you say that. I'm totally with you. I think about my experience at Chick-fil-A in that I would tell team members like, hey, we can say all we want what our culture is, but really if our customers aren't seeing what our culture is, or Chick-fil-A are guests, not customers. Yeah, if they're not seeing what the culture is and feeling it, then are we really doing a good job? So if Chick-fil-A wants to be known as hospitable, if our guests aren't experiencing an environment of hospitality, then we can put that word on the wall all we want. That's not good culture, right? So I think to your point, it's about that business owner making sure that that team member that's working 15 hours a week is set up for success to offer hospitality. Because it doesn't matter how nice the owner is with the few customers she interacts with a day. It's like that team member is going to interact with hundreds of guests. And if they're not being hospitable, you're not going to have a culture of hospitality. So like really setting up them for success. Am I getting that right?
100%. And what is that worker, right? The cashier or whomever it is, like working frontward facing with the customer, who are they directly getting their guidance from? Because it's probably not the business owner, right?
Right.
So what tools or what resources or how are we empowering the person that customer facing individual is getting? Because that's ultimately what's going to create the culture, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't magically expect to have a beautiful yard without landscaping, right? But sometimes we expect to magically have a great culture by just, saying certain things. But no, we got to landscape our frontline facing leaders to create the landscape with our customer facing workers to create that culture that we want.
Yeah, I'll shout out. There's a book over here, right here. Mark Miller, Culture Rules. Mark was at Chick-fil-A for 40 plus years, and something that sticks out from that book, I say it often, is culture is created by default or by design.
Yes.
And it's up to you to decide. And so it's like, regardless, you're going to have a culture in your business, whether you're trying to or not. It's up to you to decide if you want to design it or if you want it to be decided for you. And I think with that comes, kind of to your point, is I worked in learning and development at Chick-fil-A. Yep. And so I'm a nerd who enjoys training, and will point to training as being a problem with a lot of issues. To your point, it's like if that frontline team member is not being trained by their supervisor or their trainer or whatever properly, and if that trainer is not set up for success with a really good system to do it well again and again and again, and it's not just dependent on, well, if Craig's here, you're going to get good training, and if Jacob's here, we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe culture is about a system then, right? Like what systems can you put into place to create a good culture? Like, do you think it's about a system?
I think so. Yeah. I'm an engineer, so I always like to find ways to create systems or processes that help streamline things, simplify things, right? Like in the Army, we always say, keep it simple, stupid, right? KISS.
That's right.
But I 100% agree. And I think sometimes too, it's not even just about like a system for training. Sometimes it's just a system for creating engagement and buy-in, right? Because you could train someone all you want, but if they aren't bought into whatever they're doing, and for whatever reason you're telling them to do what they're doing, then it's probably not going to manifest in the way that you think it will. And here's kind of what I mean by that. Like, you can have, you can look at it through any different application, but let's talk about the restaurant business, right? Like, we can teach someone how to take someone's order and how to do it and use certain words, right? Like Chick-fil-A is famous for not saying thank you, but saying my pleasure, right?
Yep.
Well, there's a difference between saying my pleasure and how you say my pleasure. And that difference can be
Yes.
the difference between having a hospitable environment that welcomes guests in, and can be the difference between not having that environment. And that's all about how bought in and how engaged that employee is. You only create that buy in, that sense of purpose, that sense of community, that sense of, oh, we're doing something more than just selling chicken, by having a leader that understands how to create that and give that to that individual. Now, yeah, you can
You,
systematize that. We've talked about missions are a great tool to use it. There's so many different ways, but it's giving and empowering these leaders, not the top line leader, where all this type of investment tends to go to, but the leaders kind of that are interacting with these people that create our culture. It's giving them the tools to do it, which is often extremely over.
you said a couple things there. I'm like the buy-in, I think, is so big. I want to go there. I think your culture, your operational excellence, insert whatever term here, is only ever as good as like your weakest employee or your
Mm-hmm.
least bought in employee. And so how do you get that average up? Because
Yeah.
I work with a lot of business owners who will talk about, and I get it. Look, we get on a call. It's easy to complain, and I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, like Gen Z, these kids don't want to work.
Yep.
They just want raises. They're going to quit in 3.5 months anyway and go to X company across the street for 50 more cents. Like
Yeah.
there's no loyalty. They don't care. Like, how do I get them to buy in? Because I think it's a challenge. How do you get those employees to buy in?
Yeah, you hear it a lot in the industry to manufacturing or whatever, right? Because there's a huge talent crisis there. And if you
Yep.
really think about it, a lot of what I talk about is the labor market's totally flattened. If you think about, your traditional talent pool for trade type work or non-technical talent, whether that's in the restaurant business or the manufacturing, like that talent pool is kind of flattened
Yeah.
because everybody is about paying the same now, whether it's at Chick-fil-A or it's at Lockheed Martin, right?
Yep.
It's all about the same.
Yeah.
People right now, honestly, don't really have a preference for what they do. It's more about being able to provide for the life that they want to live, right?
Yep.
And so we're in a way like competing in this commodity market for labor, right? It's whoever can pay more or offer one more better benefit, right? And what happens when we stay stuck in this commodity market, which if you're not intentional, you will be stuck in there because there are less employees available than vacancies in that market right now, right? So unless you figure out how to break free from that competing as a commodity game, you're always going to lose someone to the company that pays $1 more, the company that offers one better benefit, that offers
Yep.
free pizza on Friday, that you name it, right? If you think about it, right, like you've been in learning development, you probably remember Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it, we're all just competing for labor based off basic needs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, from an organizational standpoint, anything that the HR department can offer an employee is a basic need.
Yep.
Well, how do you tap in to creating that buy-in from employees? It's not a generational thing, right? It's the same way you tap into buy-in for someone that's 50 years old, that's 40 years old, that's 30 years old. The only difference is what we're seeing in the market right now is people that are millennials or Gen Z, they just happen to be in a power position in the market. And so they're willing to go seek other opportunities when you aren't tapping into the self-fulfillment and the psychological needs that they have. That's why you're seeing so many people leave places in the manufacturing world to go work at McDonald's, or you're seeing people leave what once used to be really high competitive, highly technical trade jobs to go work at Amazon instead because they're offering better basic needs. Well, you tap into these individuals' psychological and self-fulfillment needs by creating that sense of purpose, by creating that sense of fulfillment. The only way you do that is by giving them managers that understand how.
You're hitting on an idea for a book that I have that I almost don't want to talk about. I kid you not. I can show you my notebook right here that I have a few different titles for it, but writing almost a sequel to my first book based on this idea that, this was written to the employee. I write one to the employer and use Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I also worked with someone who has a doctorate and is a professor at University in Iowa. And we were talking through like different psychological theories and is there a better one that's more accepted today? Anyway, but on the same basic level of like, hey, what's changed over time is, knock on wood, we were very far removed from world wars at this point. We're recording this June 25th, so we'll we'll keep this as a timestamp. And the generations coming out of that and even out of the Cold War, as an employer, you absolutely could provide basic needs and get a lot of loyalty from people. It's like, you're providing meals for my family, I will stay here for 40 years. I mean, it was literally that easy. I'll do whatever. And now you're in this employee empowerment movement, and everyone's providing basic needs. And in our culture, luckily, most people are not wondering where their next meal is coming from, especially in the industries that you and I work in and work with. And so absolutely, I'm a firm believer in like, you have to think differently about what you're providing as an employer, because I pay them every 2 weeks. Therefore, they should be grateful and listen and work hard and be bought into our culture. It just doesn't work anymore. But that doesn't mean that they're worse employees for it either. And something I'm a big believer in is, and you kind of hit on it, is providing a path for growth. That when people see the opportunity to grow, whether or not, like, look, not everyone is like me in that if I see a title that is higher than mine, I just automatically want it. I'm competitive. I want to go get it. Not everyone's like that, but I think everyone does want to see that they could spend a long time here, and that if they work hard, that will be rewarded. And that whether by title or position, or if it's just opportunity and responsibility or pay, they have the opportunity to grow within an organization. I'm a big believer that that is a psychological human need, is this want to do more. You see it in kids. Like, why do kids love loading the dishwasher? Because they want to feel like they're responsible. It's something new. It's a job. Like they're wired to want to help and do that. When you think about path for growth, I think about the military too. Like, I think when you get in the military, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I mean, you see that there's ranks all the way up to colonel and 5-star generals, right? So you know that like, hey, if I stay in and work hard, I can actually grow here. I can make more money. I can get more responsibility. Yeah. I can be in charge of more people. Do you see that in the industries you work with too? That like a path for growth is just this light. I think it's this light bulb of when you provide that, like people will stay longer.
Yeah. I think it's an element of it. I think it's really hard in industry to walk the fine line of providing that path to growth, and then also being able to like stick to it, because of the way the industry just has to ebb and flow with the market and demand and all that kind of stuff. But what I will say is, I think that, I mean, we're both small business owners, right? And so we've had to invest a lot of time and effort into learning marketing. Well, in the marketing world, your best marketing asset is your product, right? If people fall in love with your product, they're going to tell people about your product, right? That's why Chick-fil-A is blown up, right? Like, you talk about Chick-fil-A, like everybody loves their chicken. Everybody talks about their chicken. No surprise, right? The company is growing. Well, what if you could tap into that concept, but from a labor perspective, right? Because if you have a happy employee that loves their life, is passionate about what they're doing, feels like they have purpose, right? And they're contributing to something beyond themselves, just like the little kid unloading the dishwasher, well, they're probably going to tell a lot of people about it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's how you start to pull yourself out of that commodity market, because you're offering more than you're offering something nobody else can offer to an employee. Now, if you can pair that with this concept of providing growth, whether it's in your four walls or beyond your four walls, then you're onto something special. Because while I don't know you can safely get away with guaranteeing it within your four walls, you can create an environment through your action by helping people that you believe are capped in your organization promote beyond your organization. When you do that, you just created a raving fan for your organization outside the four walls of your organization. That is when things, from a labor perspective and from a culture perspective, from an engagement perspective, everybody starts to look at you and say, well, wait a minute, this guy's doing something differently and I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, you hit on something good there, and I should have clarified. I'll say, when I say path for growth too, and you explained it really well right there, of like, what about growth beyond your business and helping them get to what's next? Because I worked for a boss in Tampa who, we told every new hire, we want Chick-fil-A Largo is the location I worked for. Like, we want Chick-fil-A Largo to be the best part of your story for as long as it needs to be. And when it no longer needs to be, we want to help you get to whatever's next. And this was twofold. One, he was smart enough to realize that when people no longer want to be there, they're not going to be very good employees.
Exactly.
So why don't we help them get to wherever they want to go next quickly? Because they're not going to be very good for us while they're here. So there's a practical, like, they're going to go downhill as soon as they don't want to be here. And two, we've given the employee not just a way out in a positive way, like we want this to be a launching pad. And we are realistic enough to know that, hey, like, we're a fast food restaurant. This is not where people want to come and stay for 20 years for the most part. There's some exceptions, and there's some great GMs and Chick-fil-A's all over the country that have done that and make careers out of it. That's awesome. But for most people, this is going to be like a 12 to 18 month job. Yeah. So why don't we make it the best part of the story and then help them get to whatever's next? And I'm testament to that. When I came and worked for him, I told him my goal was not to be there any more than 2 years. That he knew what my goal was. Like, I want to go work at the support center, the corporate office for Chick-fil-A. Like, I want to go get there. That's my goal. And I want to do it on this time period. And he's like, sweet, I'm going to help you get there. And within I worked for him less than 2 years, and I was out the door. But what it did is several other people that wanted careers at Chick-fil-A or elsewhere, I'm like, hey, go work for Evan. Like, he is a great boss, great to work for. And he was totally cool with me telling him that I didn't want to be there very long and I want to get to the next thing. But because he helped me get there and developed me, and we talk about great leaders and mentors that have helped us on our journey, he was one of mine. Again, now I'm a great testimonial, word of mouth, advertising for him and saying, hey, when I leave, this leader needs to come in. Now I've backfilled my position because I'm like, he's going to help you get to whatever's next. Also, because of that, I would say that, like, I worked my butt off for him while I was there. Yeah. Because I know that I'm like, hey, he's helping me get to whatever's next for me. So I'm going to work hard while I'm here. And I would hope he would say that I was one of the best employees during that time period. So I think there's a lot of benefit to investing in people, even if that investment does not mean that they stay with you a long time. I think you're still going to get the best out of them while they're there regardless, because just not everyone's going to stay forever. I think that's just the new reality of employees. What don't you think?
Well, and I think, it's this new term I'm flirting with. I call it workforce marketing, right?
Okay. I like it.
It's this concept of exactly that. Like, it's a perfect application of it. But it rests on the foundation, right, that you were willing and able to show up each and every day and buy into the mission of that Chick-fil-A. Yep. Because if you didn't have that and you didn't have access to that and that wasn't given to you, right, the whole idea of helping you promote out of that job kind of falls apart, right? It's like It's like a house built on sand. And so I guarantee you, right, if you look back on that time, you think about it, like, this individual, right, running this Chick-fil-A site, it was more than just making money for him, right? Like, to me, how I'm interpreting things, he saw it, his mission, to create a space for individuals to come and use this restaurant as a launching pad for their careers, right? Now, he's probably doing pretty well because of that. And he gave each and every one of you guys a mission to work together, to be a part of, in each other's own personal missions to accomplish whatever you were after.
That's right.
And when all of that starts to come together and it's scaled all the way to that kind of interaction between your supervisor and whatever you have to do, that's part of your role each and every day. Like, that's when everything starts to come together. It really does. It hinges on the relationship and the system that the very senior leader down to the very lowest level leader has in place and whether they're all aligned. And when that starts to happen, this idea, this concept, the benefits of this term workforce marketing really starts to come to.
I love it. Workforce marketing. I won't steal it. That's yours. Last question here. Something you talk about is operational excellence. It's one of my two favorite words. It used to be a Chick-fil-A term. They've kind of moved away from it now, but I still love it. Because personally, something I always want to be said about myself is that I have a high standard of excellence.
Yeah.
And I really do believe like anything worth doing deserves to be done to a high standard and to be done with excellence. And I work with a lot of business owners, interact with a lot of business owners that feel the same way, business leaders that feel the same way, and they just expect things to be done to a certain level. You worked in high stakes environment in the military where excellence was expected, right? And execution was not negotiable.
Yeah.
How do you help teams maintain operational excellence? And especially because here's the biggest challenge now, I think, is without burning out, right? Because if every day you expect 110%, at what point is that going to start to fall off? You're not going to get the energy back. So how do you balance this idea of operational excellence and burnout?
Yeah, well, I think you have to know why excellence is important, right? I think that's the foundation of it. And then the caveat to that is you have to understand that we are always on this spectrum of we'll call it excellence, right? Like you can't be running at sprint speed 100% of the time, right? Like there has to be a balance within here. You're either sprinting or you're resting or you're at a pace somewhere in between that you can maintain for however long you determine that you need to be able to maintain it. So I think as a leader, right, our responsibility, the burden that we maintain is to be able to understand what the expectation, what a realistic expectation for excellence looks like, what the pace needs to look like, and how often we need to surge that pace or pull back that pace. One of my biggest pet peeves in the manufacturing world is when teams are coming up on production targets and deadlines, right? If they're a little bit behind, well, what happens, right? Management tends to push them into overdrive a little bit and squeeze as much out of them as they can. Well, if that team comes in this week and hits 150% of their weekly production target to hit that goal, say it's a quarterly goal, right? What do you think most often happens in manufacturing?
So the next week it goes down?
Well, from a management perspective, so often the management says, well, you guys did this last week, so that's the new
that becomes the new expectation. Absolutely. Yep.
As leaders, we have to prevent ourselves from falling into that trap. We have to understand what is a reasonable expectation, when is the reasonable time to surge, when is the reasonable time to take a break, and communicate around it, right? Communicate and show that we have an understanding of what that looks like and what it means. Because if we're constantly pushing people to hit this certain target that we deem to be what excellence needs to be, you're right, we're going to burn people out immediately. So that would kind of be my perspective on that. And I saw that happen with my organization when we were deployed in Iraq. We really had to figure out, hey, we've got some people that are running full speed, some people that maybe aren't holding up their weight. We've got another 8 months to go here. Like how do we figure out, how do we create a system? How do we get everybody on the same page so that we can reach the finish line? Because at the pace we're going right now, with the way things are working, it ain't gonna work. You know?
That's so tough. I like you said about like, oh, I saw what you can do. I play golf a lot. Yeah. I say a lot. I'd like to play more. I'm still a good dad and run my business. But something I know about golf swings is that like what you're capable of is not what you need to do every time. So like ball speed, like Bryson DeChambeau, Rory McIlroy can hit like 190 ball speed, but that's not what their top level is. Like they can hit 210, 200 miles an hour ball speed, but they need to know what they're capable of so that their regular swing, their smooth swing, because everyone knows if you try to kill a golf ball, it's going to go right or left. It's not going to go straight. The best swings usually are when you swing smooth or easy, where it's like, I'm going to give my like 80 to 90% swing because that's going to be the most accurate. And so it's good to know that capacity, right? Of like hey, it's great they can do the 150%, but like what we need is 100 or 90 or whatever it is. So knowing that capacity is good, but that can't be the new expectation because, like you said, like, I like the word pace, and I think as a leader, one of your main roles is to be the pace setter. Yeah. And also like you coming full circle, like you said at the beginning, knowing your frontline enough to realize when they're burned out and like when to maybe shut down
Yeah.
that pace. And I think like at Chick-fil-A, like you just know, most Chick-fil-A's know like when they're, most restaurant industries, you know when your busy hours are,
Yep.
right? And so we'd always say like aces and places for those busy times. There's times to learn new position and stuff, but I think it's also being okay with, hey, speed of service is going to be a minute slower while we're not busy, and that's okay. And so there's other reasons for that of like fresher food. You're not going to keep as much food ready,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like being the pace setter and that, hey, by 12, we're going to ramp up for about 90 minutes, and I need you to really give me the best you got, and then we'll ramp back down. And like, hey, about 5:30, we're going to ramp back up. And by 7:30, we're going to ramp back down. And like, that's a good thing of being able to like, I think leadership is pace setting is a good thing to do as a leader.
I know we're wrapping up. One thing that just made me think about.
Yeah.
There's a difference between improvement and excellence. Right? So like as an engineer, right, our role is always to figure out how to improve something. Take a jet engine, for example, right? Like we always want to improve the efficiency and the power output of a jet engine. Right? So over time, right, say in the last 20 years, the way technology and engineering has advanced, the maximum power output of a jet engine has increased probably threefold, right? 300%. Now, that doesn't mean that we're constantly running the engine at max performance, right?
Right.
No, we're most often running at about 80%, right? But what 80% looks like today is a heck of a lot better than what 80% looked like 20 years ago.
That's right.
And so there is this balance that you have to maintain as a leader, and you have to understand. And that's your job as a leader. That's a burden that you cannot pass down to somebody else. Is you have to continuously be the engineer of your team, refining your processes, refining your systems, increasing the capacity of your performance.
Yep.
But also remembering that you can't be maxing out your engines 100% of the time.
That's right.
You have to figure out the right time when you need to be at 80%, when you need to be at 60%, and when you need to be at 100%. Because if not, if you're redlining all the time, I mean, what happens to an engine in a car that's constantly redlined, right?
I was going to say, when you run the engine at 100%, it legitimately falls apart and doesn't work anymore.
So that balance is so important. Like constantly improve, but understand where that maximum capacity is and understand where your pace needs to be within that constant scale.
I love the engine example. It illustrates a lot better what I was trying to say about the with the golf swing. I mean, I've become an F1 fan, and like reliability is something. It's not just how fast can you go. It's can you do it over 24 races over however many thousands of miles they run those engines, and they have different engine modes on purpose because it's like, hey, we can run it at 100%. It's not going to last even a full race to run the engine at 100%.
Tires too, right? It's same,
that's right. Do you want to do you want to finish the race, or do you want to see how fast we can go for 5 laps? I think that's such a clear example, man. If there's one takeaway from our conversation today that you would want the audience to walk away with, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the folks we're talking to, small business owners or kind of senior leaders at like corporations, figure out how you can pour into that intersection between your frontline leader. I think, or if you look at organizations that do it, Chick-fil-A is a great example. One of my favorite quotes is from Truett Cathy, right? And this is paraphrasing, of course, but he says, Chick-fil-A isn't a chicken company. A lot of people hear that and they're like, what are you talking about, right? They sell chicken. Well, no, he used to say all the time, well, Chick-fil-A is a leader development company that just happens to sell chicken. And understanding that difference, as small as it might be, can be the very difference that can create an organization that really begins to flourish.
So I love that quote. It's not in the chicken business, we're in the people business. And we use chicken as an avenue to do that. I had someone tell me, not me, say this, I'll give them credit. Scott Wozniak, he said, I think Chick-fil-A's best product are its people. Like the amount of leaders that have come out of Chick-fil-A. And I'll say, like, what if your company was known for that? What if your company was known for our best product are the people we develop? And even after they leave, people are talking about, like, can you believe how many good people have come out of that company or how many good people want to go there? what would that do to the reputation of your brand? What would it do for the culture? And what would it do for your actual product you're selling customers?
That's right. That's right.
I imagine everything's a lot better if you'd be known for that. Craig, thank you so much. Where can people connect with you, work with you, learn more about you?
Absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just type in my name, Craig Coyle, and we'd love to have a conversation. Or you can check us out at operationlead.com. We have a couple resources that you can download for free, and we hope that it helps whatever you're hoping to accomplish.
And I've got that checklist you've got, Operational Leader Checklist. I'll have that linked in the episode description, a free resource from Craig that we're grateful for. So be sure to get that for free. Check that out below in the episode description. Craig, thank you so much for being on the Waves Business Coaching Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this episode of the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. Take care.